The newest Genshin update contains some crazy changes, one of which includes insane buffs for older characters. And in this video, I am quickly going to cover everything you need to know about version 6.2, also known as Luna 3. Okay, so a lot is happening when it comes to Genshin's story. First of all, Alice shows up, and man, I did not expect her hat to look like that. Such a cool design choice. But besides her, Nicole, who we met before under the codename N, she's the other Hexen Circle member. So two mages popping out of nowhere in the same patch is pretty crazy. Not a lot of details were shared what the story is going to be about, but we do know that Archon quests Act 5 and 6 will be available in this new update, and by completing them, as always, you'll earn 500 Primo Gems. Besides that, Durin's story quest will also be available, and the devs have promised this one will contain tons of unique gameplay elements, which sounds quite intriguing, and you'll be able to visit some spaces multiple times, whatever that means. But I'll be real, if it's about Durin, sign me up. Anyway, by completing this quest, you can also earn some Ascension materials for the Draco Boy and Primo Gems as well. Finally, a new world boss will be added, this big fat super heavy Land Rover, which some might recall we used in a side quest. Well, now it will be our punching bag to farm up Durin's Ascension mats. But yeah, the main content looks pretty crazy. However, what's even more mind-blowing is that Genshin is finally buffing 7 old units. And so, let me tell you all about it after this quick message. Topping up is expensive, and to be honest, the most painful endgame mode in Genshin is the Genesis Crystal menu screen. But luckily, I've got the best strategy how to tackle this problem, thanks to today's sponsor, lootbar.gg. By just purchasing this $100 Genesis Crystal pack through Lootbar, I saved more than 20%, which is pretty crazy, and now I can hopefully pull something good from this Luna 2 banner. However, I am the gacha gamer, and I play more than just Genshin, so Lootbar actually helps me save up to 25% on my purchases for games like Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, and Wuthering Waves. In fact, there's lots of other titles that Lootbar supports, which is quite convenient. And the checkout process is super easy. For example, for Genshin, just select the package you want, put in your user ID, and click the top up button, and within a short time, you'll see the crystals show up. I've personally used their services many times, and you can also see they have a fantastic 4.9 rating on Trustpilot, so saving with them has never been easier. So make sure to use Lootbar for your next purchase by using my link in the description, and start saving up to 25% on your purchases. Plus, new users get a 10% discount coupon if you click my link. Thank you again, Lootbar, for supporting today's video. So, it only took Hoyo 5 years, but it finally happened. All of the units shown here will be receiving buffs, but it won't be just a simple update on them. You actually will need to complete Witch's homework for each unit, which sounds mysterious, but in reality, that means for some units like Klee, you'll need to complete her story quest, but for others, it might be just a combat trial that you'll need to beat. However, once the Witch's homework task is finished, that character will then become a Hexerei unit. And similar to how Notcry buffs work, as long as 2 Hexerei units are in the team, any of these 8 characters shown, they will then be able to use their newfound powers. Although I believe in the stream, they did mention some of the new abilities for these units don't necessarily require them to be with another Hexerei teammate. Anyway, let's quickly go through some of these units, starting with Venti. So the Drunken Bard can now be played as a main DPS because when he summons his Vortex Burst, his normal attacks will now become a new type of attack called Windsunder Arrows, which will pierce the enemies and I assume will deal better damage than his regular normals. On top of that, when these attacks hit enemies, the burst's duration will be extended, which is pretty crazy. Not only that, but whenever anyone causes a swirl reaction when the burst is deployed, their damage and Venti's burst's damage will be increased. So, long story short, Venti will now deal better damage, the bursts last longer, and he can buff himself and the burst damage when he causes a swirl. Pretty sweet all in all. Now, I also want to quickly mention that Durin is also part of the Hexerei faction, and his changes are pretty simple when he's in a team with another Hexerei unit. Basically, his resistance shred and vape melt damage increase will be enhanced from the passive talent, which I'll talk about in a moment. But moving over, next one is Klee, and her changes are quite massive because during the burst, her normals will now no longer reset in sequence. So if you do her first hit, then dash, she can still then continue with second and third normal hit. And this is important because the other new change now allows her third normal hit to consume a spark that she creates, and by doing so, she will unleash a coordinated charge attack, which normally you'd have to hold down the attack button to use it. So in other words, seems like Klee's playstyle will be much smoother. But let's talk about my favorite character in Genshin, Albedo. I cannot believe this, but my faith in him has paid off because listen up. That thing where his flower gets broken all the time is no longer a problem, because now, in addition to his regular solar isotoma, he will keep summoning new silver isotomas, which cannot be broken. And if that's not enough, these silver isotomas will also help increase the damage dealt by the coordinated strike. Oh, and get this, Albedo will also buff all Hexerei characters' damage based on his defense, which is amazing. Man, I'm so glad my boy is finally getting the treatment he deserves. Now, this one comes off as a bit of a surprise, but Fischl is also getting buffed. I mean, I'm not complaining, because this new passive ability looks pretty strong, since now when the team causes overload reaction, she will buff attack for herself and the active character. However, if electro charge or lunar charge reaction is caused, then she will instead increase elemental mastery. Alright, the last one that was previewed was Razor. Not much has been said about him, only that he is getting this change to his electro sigils, where if they overflow during the burst, he will unleash some AoE damage and regain energy. Other than that, nothing was disclosed during the livestream about Mona and Sucrose, and I also believe not all the changes were mentioned for all these characters I talked about. So Hoyo is being a little secretive about it, but don't worry, I'll be covering all of these changes on my channel soon enough. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and help fill the empty void in my life. Oh, and finally, by completing these witches tasks, you'll also have the opportunity to obtain either Razor, Sucrose, or Fischl for free, so keep that in mind. But now, let's talk about the new units and banners. Alright, so with this version update, we're getting two new highly anticipated characters, and starting with my boy Durin, he is a 5-star Pyro Sword unit, who specializes in dealing... wait, what? Off-field pyro damage? Oh man, does this mean Xiangling is in trouble? Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves, and just take a look at what this guy does. So basically, Durin's skill allows him to switch between two states, light or dark. They have fancier names, but that's how I'm calling them for now. And honestly, the difference seems to be that you would use light Durin when you want him to be dealing off-field damage, because he will also help reduce the enemy's resistance when causing a pyro plus a few other select element reactions. So in other words, both of those elements involved in a reaction will also reduce the corresponding resistances. On the flip side, his dark mode allows him to deal higher vape or melt damage. Speaking of which, looks like the majority of his damage will be coming from the burst, because when he casts it, depending on which mode he was, he will unleash periodic pyro damage, whether he is active or swapped out. In light mode, the damage will be AoE, but in dark mode it will have a smaller AoE and more laser focused damage. So I'm guessing it will also have higher multipliers. So yeah, Durin looks pretty strong, and I forgot to mention this, but you can unlock new cosmetic look for him by completing, I believe, his story quest. Now, as for Jahoda, who is a 4-star animal bow user, well, she's quite peculiar. When you use her skill, she will fill up this flask icon that appears next to her depending on what element the enemy had on them. And then when it's full and she's in ascendant state, it will periodically unleash the absorbed element's damage. And as for the burst, it's quite nice because she will be able to provide healing, and if it reaches a certain threshold for active unit, then she will heal the next lowest HP unit. Plus, it seems like those little robots from the burst can also absorb the active element the enemy has when the team is in ascendant gleam state, and then unleash the same kind of damage periodically. If that's not enough, her burst robots will gain different abilities depending on the most dominant element of the team. So yeah, while Jahoda is Animo, the reality is, she's gonna be usually unleashing either Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo damage instead. I guess we'll just have to witness Jahoda's abilities for ourselves when she's live. Alright, with the bad pun out of the way, what about the banners? Well, in Phase 1, Durin and Venti will be the featured 5 stars along with Jahoda. On top of that, the weapon banner will contain Durin's signature and a new Venti signature bow. What a surprise! I mean, the Bard is going to be now a main DPS, so Hoyo thought, why not earn some extra moolah from this buff? And then as for Phase 2, Varessa and Shilonen will be the featured 5 stars. So all in all, quite the stacked banners. Now, as always, let's quickly go through all the upcoming events, and starting with the main one, it's called Soul Blazer's Snowbound Journey, and it will be made up of 4 minigames. The first one looks like a wind trace activity, but they're calling it Snow Trace. Cute. Then second activity lets you run around with this small creature and collect coins. Then third activity, now you shoot snowballs to collect coins. And then finally, the last one is a combat minigame where you need to fill up battle souls to acquire better abilities and reach higher score. And by doing all of these winter tasks, the main reward is going to be a limited 4-star bow called Rainbow Serpent's Rainbow. Oh man, seems like someone from Hoyo is my soulmate when it comes to bad puns. But moving over to smaller events, Bing Bang Finchball is making a comeback, baby. And this pinball activity will have some new twists. Then Heroic Clash Saurian Brawl looks like a fun one, where you use different Saurians and collect coins. Seems like Hoyo is going way too hard on coin collection in this update cycle. However, at least Liben is coming back to visit us, and in the live stream it was mentioned he has info about the new region, which now makes me wonder, is Notcry update cycle going to be short if Liben is already here? No idea, but I am curious to learn what this lovable guy has to say. Then, and I don't know if this is an event or permanent addition, but the devs mentioned there will be new interactions available with Columbina at her usual place. Oh, and Myriad of Melodies event, which I've still yet to experience, will now have customizable difficulties. And then Envisaged Echoes will have 2 new cosmetic trails for Klee and Albedo. Perfect timing. And don't worry, TCG friends, I know you're a dying breed, but new cards and new stuff is getting added into Invocation TCG this update, including a Scofier card and a few more. Finally, when it comes to Miliastra Wonderland, creators can now easily upload and download creations in this new update, so you can share your creations and use others and remix them, I guess. Plus, and this comes off as a shocker, but Hoyo is actually going to give away 10 limited and 10 standard pulls, plus a few more cosmetics from Miliastra. I mean, 10 is fine, but they should definitely make it so that people can just earn the currency regularly instead of paid only. But yeah, lastly, the new Miliastra banner is going to be winter themed, so I hope you guys get the 5-star outfit with the 10 free pulls. I really do. And now we're at my favorite part of the video, quality of life changes. Not many though, but the first one now allows you to sort units in Character Archive with more parameters. Like you can now sort by constellations, friendship level, and other stats you see here. I like it, nice to use it sometimes and now with more control. But the next change is pretty sweet for newer players. Now reputation experience in Natlan and other regions will be increased, so less grinding needed. And then finally, when it comes to claiming daily commissions, you no longer need to open up that stupid book and click the button. Instead, you will now be able to claim everything from Catherine directly. Yay for less clicking. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Genshin Luna 3 version changes. Let me know what you think about it. I am personally super hyped that the old characters are getting buffed. And for me, this is going to be a super stressful period as well, because I'll have to try and pump out as many videos as I can. So I'd appreciate if you could hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel. While I am off to making videos and losing sleep. Bye bye!